Welcome to Career Tools. This is Sarah.
And I'm Mark.
Today's podcast, Feel, Felt, Found, Part 1 of 1.
This podcast answers these questions. How do I overcome objections to my ideas? How do I deal with conflict? And how do I empathize with others?
If you want answers to these questions and more, keep listening. Are you thinking about your professional goals for next year? Plan now to attend one of Manage Your Tools' virtual conferences. Whether you want to communicate better, manage your team more effectively, or lead with confidence, we've got training that fits your schedule. Schedule your spot early at manager-tools.com/training. I'm so excited about today's topic. Feel, Felt, Found is one of, I don't know if you would agree with me, Mark. I'm sure you would. One of, I think, our most important Career Tools podcasts, maybe most popular. It's in our Hall of Fame, obviously. And this is one of those re-records. It's such a beloved tool. It's so useful. Our longtime community members are all well aware of Feel, Felt, Found.
I think part of it is because all of this stuff, needing to persuade people, getting to agreement, diffusing conflict, all this stuff is important to every adult and obviously many young people as well. And yet there is virtually no training for verbal clarity other than vocabulary tests that probably stop when you're 12 or 13 years old. There's no discussion of persuasion, no discussion of empathetic exchanges. Now, there's all kinds of empathy in the world lately, but that doesn't necessarily translate into useful verbal tools that can help you diffuse a situation or persuade somebody and so on. And the first time somebody uses it, they feel like it's a superpower. Like, wow, that really, really worked.
Yeah. And see, I was going to say it's because from my perspective, there are a lot of people, if you're used to the DISC language that we often use here at Manage Your Tools, task-focused people, Ds and Cs, aren't known for being very good at communicating with other people. So that tool of empathy is something that most Ds and Cs really don't have. I mean, people tell us all the time.
They do have it. They just don't express it.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. People say, you need to be more empathetic.
They're telling you how to be.
Yeah. I'm already trying to express empathy. Clearly, the things that I do aren't what you expect when you expect empathy. And this is one of those podcasts that kind of changes that. It's like, okay, you want people to think you're more empathetic? Do these things.
Yeah, exactly. When people hear it the first time, they're like, and if they haven't listened to this cast, they're like, hey, say that again. That sounded really good. And as we said, when you hear this work for the first time, you'll be surprised. You'll see a noticeable lessening of the tension. It's very similar to my guidance to people when we're at the ECC about turning your body 30 degrees off of squared shoulders with another person to reduce conflict. By the way, if you use it, you'll also probably feel better at moving forward past whatever the frustration or the difficulty was. And if you use it with your directs, you're going to find it'll lower the antagonism, which is exacerbated by the role power. And that helps you begin the process of sort of collaborative solution finding, which is good.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And it's classic.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's classic. And it's actually pretty simple. I mean, this is a one-part podcast. And like so many of the other podcasts, the concepts, I should say, that we discuss over here at Manage Your Tools, we didn't invent the phrase Feel, Felt, Found. Now, we have a podcast to help you explain it or help explain it to you, but we didn't invent it. It's in fact pretty widely known in sales circles.
Oh, sales circles. It's literally one of the first things I was taught at Procter & Gamble, which is now almost 40 years ago. It's still used.
Mm-hmm. And folks, we can't be sure that it originated there.
In sales, right.
In sales, exactly. But if you look it up, you're going to find tons of websites that tie it to overcoming objections, whether that's in a sales context or not. We're, again, just helping spread that word.
Yeah, and please, folks, don't judge because it's sales and you're a software developer and you would never be a used car salesman because all the salespeople in the world, they pay your salaries. That's why salespeople and business development people get bonuses and so on. It's why when there's layoffs, the sales force doesn't get cut as much. It's also why sales forces are much more quick to get rid of people who aren't doing what they're supposed to do, because you have to meet your numbers in order to pay for everybody's salaries. And what I learned after I learned it at Procter, and I used it exclusively for sales, right, as a diffuser of tension or disagreement, or to address what are known as objections in sales, is when you use it outside of sales, the situations you're going to naturally be drawn toward using it are basically the sales equivalents of disagreement or conflict. And it's much more broad than just that. So don't hate on it because you think you don't want to use anything salespeople do. Remember, whether you like it or not, whether you want the world to be a completely rational, logical, linear, factual, numerical place, it is not. Half the people in the world tend to be naturally more emotional than they are rational. The other half tend to be more rational. And there's a good reason why the word emotion is very similar to motion, because we do things because of how we feel, not because of what we think. And I just find far too many technical people say, no, I'm not going to use those tools. And the fact is, all communication is persuasion. You can look up 100,000 books on communication and persuasion. They all say the same thing. Yes, we should strive to be accurate, but you should be persuasively accurate. And if you have conflict or tension in a relationship, or even in one conversation, you're not going to be persuasive. You're not going to solve the problem around the conflict and tension if you don't have an extra set of tools. And look, a lot of people only use it in sales calls, but it's just a verbalization of a disagreement, a moment of conflict. And managers see this every day. And I have been using it since I was in sales for years, and it works like a charm.
Absolutely. I mean, this tool, we're talking about today in the context of management, professionalism generally. But if you've been listening to manager tools for any length of time, you'll know that we consider the definition of conflict to be two human beings in the same county, which means you put 100 people in the same building and tell us all to work toward the same mission or goal. And we're all going to have entirely different ways of doing it and probably bicker about them.
Yeah.
So as soon as you got two people, you got conflict. You've got conflict.
So here's our outline for this cast. Super easy. We're going to go over usage. We're going to give you some examples. And then we're going to talk verbiage, the actual specific verbiage you use and how you use it, ensconced in the title, Feel, Felt, Found. And then we're also going to talk briefly about body language, which I don't know why other people didn't learn the way I did. But when I learned it, my sales trainer was really good. And I've been doing it that way ever since. And I would say probably 70% of people just learn the words, and they don't learn that there's, if you'll pardon the expression, a dance to go with it, if you want to be truly effective with other people, because a big part of communication is facial expression and body language, right?
Absolutely.
So we'll share the body language part too.
I love that. All right, let's start with usage. Now, Feel, Felt, Found is used in situations of conflict. So, for example, a direct comes to your desk and they are upset, or a peer wants something and is frustrated that you've not complied, or an internal customer or supplier is really slow, or there's a disagreement on terms. Basically, anytime that you sense that you're not emotionally or rationally aligned with another person, whether they are above you, below you, to your same level in the organization, Feel, Felt, Found can be a really powerful way to diffuse the tension that could be happening in that situation.
Yeah. And so therefore we recommend using it with your peers, your directs, your suppliers, your customers, but folks, not your boss.
Yeah, not your direct boss.
Yeah, no. Now, when you're in conflict with your boss, we basically recommend rollover. You do get a bite at the apple. And in some cases, if you want another one privately, you can have a second bite at the apple. But at some point, the organization has to align, and you don't get to continue telling your boss, Feel, Felt, Found, and why you disagree with him or her.
Mm-hmm. We've got to have a podcast for that, Mark. When you and your boss disagree.
Well, sure. We have professional subordination, which is I recommend A, the boss deciding between A and B. She chooses B, and I go back to my team and say, hey, it's B. And when the team goes, hey, I thought it was A, I don't go say, yeah, the boss doesn't know what she's doing. If I feel strongly about A, I ask the boss, hey, can I visit with you about this? Not in front of the team. I don't make a scene at a staff meeting. I don't continue to beat a dead horse at the staff meeting. I just say, okay, it's B. And believe me, karma will help you enormously with that when you have a team or when you have a lot of teams beneath you and you have a bunch of people that are like, okay, we're going to do B. Because 99% of those types of decisions are not dispositive to the organization. They're two roads diverged in a wood and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
Mm-hmm. No, so all that to say, folks, look on our website, manager-tools.com, go to the search bar, search for professional subordination, and there'll be related casts served up to you as well. You can kind of start there as a leaping point for some of this content. That's a classic. All right, verbiage, Mark.
So first we'll give you some examples, and then we'll move into the detail. So one of your directs, we're going to call him Terry, comes into your office and says, Robert, and Robert's one of Terry's peers. Robert continues to stall on me on the numbers for Q3. He says he'll get them to me, and then he doesn't. I got to have them. This is a classic case where some managers are going to go get Robert and solve the problem, which is the wrong thing to do because now Terry is renting your role power and a problem has been created at Robert and Terry's level and you are solving it at your level. And there's another great podcast that we have that's in the archives called Have You Talked to Them? If Terry comes to you and says, Robert's not giving me my stuff, you just say, have you talked to them? Okay. But again, that's for a different cast than today. So using feel, felt, found here in this situation might sound like this. Hey, Terry, I can respect how you feel here. There's that word feel. When others don't seem to be responding to my requests, my needs, their deliverables to me, I've felt like you do. Totally makes sense. What I found is the best approach is either some peer feedback or some questions about whether he's clear he really does owe you the numbers, and then maybe some documentation. I probably wouldn't pursue the documentation between two peers, but.
No, exactly. So another example might be this time with your peer, Kathy. She comes in and she says, hey, I disagree with your approach on the presentation to the boss. You're shading it too much toward operations, but we need a more marketing approach. So to use feel, felt, found in this instance, you might say, I can see why you'd feel that way, and I'm sorry I wasn't more clear. I probably have felt the same way under the circumstances. And here's my take. What I found is that the boss doesn't really see it our way. The marketing stuff, she doesn't really agree on that approach. So I just tried to put it in her language with more of the ops stuff to try and make it more persuasive.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. And look, folks, it might be pretty obvious by now, but the verbiage is 3 phrases linked together loosely with some flexibility. You don't have to be totally precise every time.
Exactly. So we'll start with the first part of the phrase, if you will, feel. Some examples of how the feel might sound are, I understand how you feel. I can see why you'd feel that way. I respect how you feel. I'm getting how you feel about this. And I hear how you feel. But you'll note what's not included is I know how you feel.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, a long, long time ago, our friend Michael Swenson pointed out, hey, Mike, that the usage or the phrase, I know how you feel, really isn't effective in conflict situations. It's fine if you're talking to a friend and your friend is complaining about something and you're commiserating and trying to show them we're in this together. It's just a way of showing that camaraderie in misery. But feel, felt, found in this context isn't just doing that. Plus, as Michael shared with us, telling someone that you know how they feel, it isn't entirely accurate.
And of course, that's from Michael. What I would say is it's 100% inaccurate.
That's true. That's true. You know, you probably don't know exactly how they feel. Mm-mm.
That's right. I know 2 + 2 = 4, but me trying to understand the emotional fog or soup or cloud inside someone else's head, no. Sorry, no.
Yeah. And again, we're not commiserating with them. This is a professional instance, professional situation.
Yes.
And in a context like that, most people don't like others acting as if they can get inside their head. We're not friends here. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So there's There's a line there.
Yeah. Michael's, the way he described it to me is if you do that, if you're talking to a peer, but they're not a buddy, and so you're not commiserating, and you say, I know how you feel, it actually feels to some people like you're talking down to them.
I was going to say, it sounds condescending.
Yeah, exactly. Good word. Yeah. The purpose of the first part of the phrase, the use of the word feel, again, is not to commiserate, but it's to validate. Okay. You're saying it's okay to feel that way. And by the way, you're about to go on and prove it by saying, I felt that way too in a similar situation, or I would feel like you do under the circumstances. When you say to your buddy, I know how you feel, that's sympathy. But the first step in feel, felt, found is really empathy. So again, you're validating what they're experiencing.
Exactly. All right. So now we're beyond feel. We're at felt. That's part 2 of the phrase. And this is all a variation on the theme of I've felt that way too. This is perhaps the sympathy part of the phrase, even if it's removed. So it could sound like I've felt like that before. I've been there and felt that way. I've talked to others who've felt that way in the past, which is really a slight variation using another person's point of view, but still valid in this context.
Yeah. And then the last step in the model, the verbiage, is found. You're basically saying, hey, I've validated what you're feeling. I've been in similar situations, and here's what my experience has shown me. Here's a different way of seeing it based on mine or somebody else's perspective. Here's a different approach, right? It suggests that I see what you're feeling. I've been there, and I have an idea for how we might change where we are. It sounds like this. What I found is, when I face that, I found that one way to address this is, now mind you, you don't say, when I'm in that situation, I do X. If you do that, that's too quick a jump to action. And so what you're describing is what you found. In other words, I experienced this. I'm offering you my experience as a way to renegotiate with your head, with your heart, about what you're actually experiencing without driving them to a specific behavior necessarily. If I say, what I found is you're doing it wrong, do it like this, that's not an attempt to dissipate conflict or to reduce tension. That's just getting them out of your office and getting them to do something because you're telling them to do it.
Are you ready to communicate and lead more effectively next year? Start with the Manager Tools DISC assessment. That is MT DISC. Understand your natural style and how to adapt to others to improve teamwork, influence, and results. Develop the self-awareness every great professional needs. Learn more at manager-tools.com/DISC. All right, that takes us then to body language. Now, folks, we've all heard them say things like a large percentage of human communication is body language.
Yes.
And it's true. I mean, it's one of the reasons that virtually communicating without your camera on is that much harder. You just have less data. There are less factors to help you discern what's occurring in this situation.
Yep.
And in this instance, for Feel, Felt, Found, we found that using some simple body language that complements the verbal language here can help make it more impactful as well.
Yeah. In fact, what happened was I had to do this a lot in overcoming objections at Procter & Gamble as a salesman, as a sales manager. So I would try stuff because I was new to sales. When I was a sales rep, I was 27 and everybody else was 21, fresh out of college. And I'd spent 5 years in the Army and had just come from South America. And I thought, hey, I need to learn this stuff. I bet those kids, they know everything. They know all the ins and outs. And I got some books on sales, and I had read about Feel, Felt, Found, and I'd read about overcoming objections early and always be closing, which, by the way, is not just from Glenn Gary. Glenn Ross is actually a fundamental sales technique, always be closing, ABC. And I simply started practicing to see what worked and what didn't work. And I'll tell you the biggest thing I learned, and it's the first bit. When you say the feel step, when you use the word feel, you gesture with an open hand, and I'm doing this we're on Zoom now, folks, and I'm gesturing with an open hand Usually with the back of my hand down and the palm up, I'm not making my hand into a knife. It's not rigid. It's soft as if maybe I'm carrying a small, like a rabbit's foot or something in it. I'm just gesturing toward them. In other words, I'm acknowledging them with a gesture in their direction. Now, I tell people all the time when I was coaching reps and managers, I would tell them, hey, look, I want you to gesture toward them. And what people would do is, and if you want to do this while hopefully you're not driving, is you gesture toward them with an open hand, like you're handing them a rabbit's foot. Okay.
Mhm.
And instead of doing that, without closing your hand, I want you to picture what happens to the rabbit foot. If you rotate your hand and arm, and now you're putting your palm toward them and the back of your hand is toward you. Okay. A healthy percentage, I would guess 40% of people, when they wish to gesture at other people, which is typically an inclusive thing, an acknowledgement thing, an awareness of what you were talking about just then is the point of what we're talking about now, rather than moving on. If you gesture toward them and you think I'm gesturing toward them, I'm including them. And even if your fingers are not rigid, if your fingers are pointed up, your palm of your hand is facing toward them and the back of your hand is mostly toward you, you're basically telling them to sit down and shut up.
It kind of feels that way.
Oh no.
Because
Totally,
folks, I can see Mark's hand.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation.
Yeah.
It just kind of feels like, whoa.
No, what they say is, I get it, right? I get it.
Yeah.
And they think they're acknowledging, and you're missing the entire point, right? You're literally telling them, I'm about to tell you what to do.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
I've already figured out where you are, and I'm the master, and I have the answer. Feel Felt Found is not that way. Feel Felt Found is a bridge to help them understand you respect what they're going through, and you have an idea that they might be willing to consider. Just like if the idea was the rabbit's foot, you're going to ultimately sort of offer them the rabbit foot, but you wouldn't offer them an idea by putting your hand up, palm facing them, because that's basically, hey, step back, please. And so just slide your hand or hands waist high toward the other person. That's it. If you're standing up, it doesn't have to be up high toward your face, toward your neck, toward your chest. It can be from the midsection, right in there. Hey, I understand how you feel. I get how you're feeling, or I'm hearing you on how you're feeling. And you're just extending them what amounts to an olive branch or a rabbit's foot.
Are you a rabbit's foot? Exactly. Are you thinking, Mark, is there one hand? Is there two hands?
You could do both.
You could do either, really, right? One or both.
I would say, since our audience skews slightly more technical, and so therefore a little bit more logical, linear, rational, I would say be careful about using two. You're probably not really good at gesturing. We like to tell people that everybody gestures and everybody uses the same gestures, but some people make big gestures and some people make small gestures. Those people who make small gestures, who would be for the first time using this as a gesture, will probably do it clumsily because they don't think they gesture when in fact they do. So I would just say one. And frankly, when I think about it, I do one 90% of the time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's step one.
Yep.
Then that takes us to step two, felt. You slide that hand or hands, right? The one that's outstretched, if you will, with holding a rabbit's foot, back toward yourself. It's a little bit like the junior medicine ball technique, which we talked about extensively in our Answering Questions in a Presentation podcast.
Yep.
By all means, please go listen to that one. And generally, you want to bring your hands back with your palms toward you, as if you're gathering something in. You're gesturing toward yourself. Exactly. Like it's
you're connecting them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they're a ghost in front of you and you're hugging them. That's a little probably too much. Some of our audience is like, that's exactly what it is. That probably doesn't work for our engineers, but basically you extend your hand toward them. You say, I respect what you're sharing with me here. And in fact, I've felt it too. You're creating a connection between you and them.
Yeah. It's almost like you're talking to them with your hand kind of toward them. And then I've also found that way you're turning your hand toward you. Like, this is an exaggeration, but not pointing at the person who's being discussed in that moment, but kind of, right?
Yeah.
To them and then to you.
Yeah. I would say that I extend my hand to acknowledge what they're going through. And then I bring the hand toward me. I don't bring it up toward my face. I don't bring it down to my side. I just slide it back toward me. And in fact, as we'll get to here, we're actually going to slide it a little bit to the side as well. For the third step, this body language piece has some real power. We recommend you gesture toward your side, away from, directly between you and the other person. In other words, you're basically saying, I've acknowledged you, I have validated you, I've shared that I've been in a similar situation. And now I want to set aside this disagreement. And so my hand, which started pointed toward them with palm up, moves toward me. And then my shoulders turn, and probably even both hands, although it can be one, can essentially, if you understand, catch the medicine ball of disagreement here. Sorry, I just moved away from my microphone. Gianni's going to go, where did you go? Because we don't gesture very often on these things. And you set the idea, the conflict, the disagreement aside and imply that it's something that used to exist.
That's exactly it. It kind of looks like you've been holding something close to you as you move your hands or your hands to the side. It ends up looking kind of like if there were a person beside you. You would be passing them a plate, for example, right? Your palms are still up, although we would say the orientation of your hands and the palm up thing is less important at this step, because now you're not gesturing toward them or yourself. You're gesturing toward nothingness, essentially. Yeah, or you can think of the slow motion of dealing of a card to your left, or again, passing something to beside you. You're just first talking about them, then yourself, and now casting aside that thing.
Yeah. And by the way, if you do this, and to tell you the truth, people laugh at this. Salespeople do this. I would practice it a few times.
I agree.
Practice it in your family and get used to the combination of feel, felt, found, and the gestures. And what you'll discover is people will say, wow, your answer will have increased weight. This is a person who's comfortable and confident in slightly conflicting or different situations that there's differences or disagreements, and they're at peace about it. They're smooth about it. The last thing you want to do is the bad example is putting your hand up and say, hey, and right now, folks, if you can't see me, but I'm putting my hand up towards Sarah on our Zoom screen. Hey, I hear you. And it's a bit like my hand is a pickleball paddle or a ping pong paddle, and I'm hitting the ball back. I hear you, in the cadence with my words, which is just about as sure a way you can get of saying, go away. We're in disagreement. I'm now going to tell you what I want from you, and you just need to sit and listen. And look, you don't have to do much to reinforce this message. Mm-hmm. If you were holding your hands in front of your belt line when you started, they may not have to move more than 6 to 8 inches forward, back the same distance, and then maybe 8 or so inches to the side. It's not a pantomime. It's not stage direction where you have to do it so 1,000 people in the audience can see it.
Not exaggerated.
It's a gentle compliment to the words you're using. And again, when you use this technique many times, you'll know you'll have your body language just about perfect. When you don't even think about this, you just understand that it's happening while you're speaking feel, felt, found. Mm-hmm. Works like a charm. One of my favorites.
Yeah. And again, to Mark's point, by all means, practice this with a spouse. But going back to what we said earlier about don't use this tool with your boss, I think for those of us who are in the audience right now who've not listened to some of our podcasts on not giving feedback to your boss, your spouse is your boss, so you can practice with them to get their input, but don't use feel, felt, found and this hand technique with them after you've practiced it with them. They won't like it.
No, they won't like it.
They will not like it. It will not work well for you. All right. So to wrap it all up, remember that expressing empathy, expressing sympathy during conflict, it's not about agreeing or giving in. It's about showing the other person that they're heard and they're understood. And in tense moments like this, just a simple acknowledgement alone can lower defensiveness and just open the door to what is effective dialogue. By cutting through that, what could be strain, it allows for us to have a conversation. Simple phrases, calm tone, And acknowledging that the other person's experiences are also valid can go a really long way toward turning conflict into productive outcomes. And folks, what we consistently see is that leaders who practice empathy create more productive outcomes, even in difficult situations. Conflict doesn't disappear. Conflict won't disappear, but it'll become far more manageable and less personal given our role in the organization. So with a little bit of preparation and a lot of intention, you can navigate these disagreements in a way that preserves relationships and moves everyone forward.
Thanks, Sarah. That was good.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for joining us. We hope that this one helped you. Now help us help others and tell your friends. And of course, follow, rate, and review our podcast. And remember, 5 stars only, please. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.